This mutation is called Hell Train, and it is being played on Oblivion Express. We have two mutators active. We have Just Die, and we have Scorched Earth. So, Just Die on this mission basically means the train is going to be respawning every single time. So that does make this mission a little bit difficult. Dehaka is putting a Primal Warden on here, and he'll be using this Primal Warden to go and clear his expansion. And we do have a few orbital strikes coming out from Artanis to help clear his expansion. Unfortunately, Artanis is not as effective at doing this expand, but you can see here the positioning of these orbital strikes is able to clear the gas rocks and the main rocks. So if you're doing Karax, this is basically the one and only time where you can actually utilize that and take some advantage out of the orbital strikes. You can actually fully clear your expansion on this map, and it's only this expansion on the Oblivion Express that allows you to clear both the gas rocks and the main rocks with the orbital strikes. So that is what Artanis is doing, and Dehaka is trying to make sure he does not end up getting roasted by some of the units over here. Just Die is making it a little bit difficult for him to farm his essence, but that is part of the mutator set that has to be addressed here. While the commanders to Just Die does make it a little bit annoying. That's okay. We have one Zealot already, trying to work away on these main rocks, and I think for the most part all the okay. There is a ping on this side. Dehaka asking Artanis to chrono the primal hive here. Dehaka is still on this ramp. He's really poking away at this roach. I don't know whether this roach has been eaten. Okay, it has been eaten before, so Scorched Earth now gets triggered. Ends up picking up the Hydralisk as well. You see how long it takes for Dehaka to just farm this essence, because on the first respawn, the unit will not drop any essence for Dehaka, so Dehaka actually has to kill twice as many units before he gets the same amount of essence. So that makes it very very annoying for Dehaka, especially when you're up against Zerg as well. It's not particularly fun. Zerg with Just Die is just... it is so incredibly annoying when like Vipers respawn and then they will start like recasting Blinding Clouds and Parasitic Bombs, and Festers respawn and refungal growth your army. It's just a complete salt fest for me when I play against Zerg. So we have Dehaka jumping in over here. Dehaka actually might be okay with Zerg because Vipers and Infestors are very, very delicious units for him. So you know, it's not all terrible, but Artanis is going to be having a few problems in this mission here. First deck wave has spawned, and very luckily, I would say, it is a ground Zerg composition, so it is a little bit less annoying than some of the other compositions that these commands can be facing, like Swarmy Zerg and Mutaling. But again, it means you have to deal with Lurkers instead of Vipers, but you know what, I'll take Lurkers any day over Vipers and Infestors. So Dehaka has finished taking out his expansion, and he has parked his Primal Hive now in position, and now he will continue to macro up. Glevik is the Glevik Den is also complete. Very much a very good build here for Dehaka, and now he should be ready to put down his Murvar's Den and get to the next tech level that he has planned. We do have some Zerglings here that have been made into Ravasors, and yeah, there will be a requirement for a little bit of a high damage output here to ensure that he's able to deal a good amount of damage to this side. And now we have a solar bombardment that has been dropped onto this train here, so this will deal a little bit of damage to the train. The train has respawned, and now some more damage will be dealt over here with the number of Ravasors that are in Dehaka's army. So I think damage output is a little bit short. Dehaka getting a little bit roasted here. He needs to eat something to make sure he doesn't end up dying. Yeah, there we go. He goes, he eats a roach. And now it's basically up to this one Zealot and Dehaka. A little bit of slapping from Dehaka's side to clean up this train. And yeah, I think this should be okay. But now there's an attack wave that's making its way towards the player's base. And now we have a few Zerglings here. The orbital strikes do come down, but remember, there is Just Die. It's not really going to make very much of an impact. There is a shield overcharge that comes to try and save this unit. But unfortunately, the worm does end up getting killed off by the large number of roaches that are here. Dehaka has deep tunneled across, and now he's ready to go. And he drops the Glevik down. And yeah, there we go. Glavik was a reasonable call. He could have actually used Glavik as well to deal with the train, but anyway, the train has been cleared. So far, the damage is there for the first train. And yeah, so there are a few more orbital strikes over here. Glavik does get deep tunnel across, so he can deal with this next attack wave as well. Ends up clearing out the attack wave with his fire breathing ability, which I cannot remember for the life of me what it is called. Scorched breath? I want to say scorched breath. I'm not sure. Anyway, Dehaka slowly starting to push into this side. Now just trying to farm, I think, a little bit more essence so that he's a little bit stronger. Dehaka has been having a little bit of a difficult time getting a decent foothold here. But he does have his Glavik's Den, he does have his Morvar's Den as well. He has 3 Primal Wardens out, and we're gonna see what kind of build Dehaka wants to do. Production-wise, still no Doctrin's Den. Doctrin's Den is probably one of the more important ones here, especially when you're up against Ground Zerg, because it means that Doctrine can actually kill off pretty much everything the attack wave has. So Doctrine's actually a good call here. Sometimes I tend to not go for the Doctrine's Den if I'm up against an air composition. I find it really less effective. Anyway, Morvar gets dropped onto this escort wave now, and she will start taking a little bit of damage. 2 more orbital strikes go down to help soften whatever's left of the defense to the escort wave. And now I believe the train is left by itself to fend for itself, and now a huge weapon of Immortals from Artanis will start to deal some damage to this train here. And we'll have a damage output for each of these players. And yeah, for the most part, you'll see here the player 1 has negative damage here. And this is something that some people noticed when they were at the end game screen. They saw that they had the negative damage, which is why I was actually talking about the points here. On this mutator, because Just Die makes a train respawn, the player that gets the finishing hit on the train, when the Just Die mutator procs, will have their damage subtracted by the HP of the train that is respawning. So theoretically, if you were to play very, very efficiently and very, very accurately, what you could do is end up with a negative score with something like 100,000 negative score at the end of the game, as long as you last kill the train just before the Just Die mutator procs, and then you basically don't deal any more damage to the train in the process. So you could actually get there are some very, very interesting scores you could end up getting as a result of it, and it's just basically it's just a side effect of how the end score is calculated. So when Just Die procs and the train heals up again, it basically provides you with negative damage dealt to the train, and that is what causes the negative score. I know a few people were asking about this when on the Battle.net forums as to why they have it, and that is the reason why there are negative scores on this in this mission. So yeah, Doctrine is now out, and you can see how effective Doctrine is at clearing out this attack wave here. And now the train is left off by itself again. There are a few more units here. The Doctrine is in position. It's pretty much okay. You'll be able to deal with another burrow charge here and support a large number of these units. And now we have a solar bombardment as well that gets dropped to deal with this. And that is pretty much going to be this train getting cleaned up now. For the most part, there are a bunch of Guardians here for Abathur. Oh, not for Abathur, for Dehaka. And we have a few Brooches as well in the mix here. And, I think the Immortals as well dealing with a lot of damage. And yeah, for the most part, both players doing their part here. Because even taking into consideration the fact that Just Die does reset the damage dealt, it seems to be more or less okay. In the long run, it does tend to average out. And the contributions are more or less relative. There is a Viper that has joined into the mix here. It does end up casting a Parasitic Bomb onto one of these Guardians. Guardian does get split off from the rest of his friends, so he does do not kill his friends over here. And his bonus objective will also end up respawning, so that will be again some more work for these commanders to deal with. Unfortunately, now there is an attack wave that is making its way towards the player's expansions, and but Artanis' army is in position, and Dehaka also has a Glavik, and I think Glavik might be a reasonably good choice here. But Artanis does a Warping of Zealots here, just soak up the damage off of these Immortals, take these damage off the Immortals so that he can, so these things can fire from the back line, and he ends up doing that. And pretty much the rest of the attack wave has been cleaned up. Bonus objective is gone now, has been cleaned up by Dehaka and his army of Guardians. And now we have the next the next set of trains, and this one is going to be the challenge. These trains have very strong escorts with them, and this is where the actual test of damage output comes into play. So we have a few Reavers from Artanis, so he wants to have that extra bit of burst damage. And now we have a Glevic that gets going across here, and that was basically the correct play here. Just using Glevic to take out a large chunk of this attack wave is just going to make this so much easier. They have to keep Glevic alive because I think with Gaul, the idea is to just get Glevic to deal with this next escort wave as well. There's another Scorched Breath here, and now the commanders will have to go ahead and deal with this train. There is a shield overcharge that gets dropped. The train has respawned now. This train can end up on this side. On here, the train is still making its way, so now the goal is to get Glevic to fire across here. Ends up catching off the tail end of the escort wave. Still some more damage to be dealt here for Glevic, but again, Artanis and Dehaka's army are just extremely massive and they deal a lot of damage, and we also have Murvar joining in to just help weaken this train, and they take it out. So these trains have been cleared up very effectively. The commanders are doing okay now. Lots of fire on the ground as well, so the commanders will have to be a little bit careful. Make sure they don't take too much damage. And there is a random roach here that decided to go ahead and attack the primal worms on this side. And again, Dehaka just starting to push in, just poking in a little bit. I think he wants to just try and farm this a little bit more essence. Okay, but he's almost at Godzilla mode anyway, so it's not really too big of a deal. Just getting extra value out of his here. And we can see that Dehaka has also gotten his aerial burst axe upgrade for his Murvar, and now Murvar has actually engaged with this attack wave. Will end up dealing a little bit of damage to some of these units. There's some explosive creepers that are left over, and they will deal again some causing these units to respawn so that Dehaka can jump in or use a fire breath like that and end up wiping out these units here. And there's an infestor eat, very nice eat on the infestor there, pretty much one-shots the rest of the units there, and getting Dehaka to Godzilla mode now. And I think that is for the most part okay. There's another train that'll be spawning, but again, I think this train is going to be focused fired down by both these commanders, so very well played on both these players' parts here. Dehaka is in the front line now, and very interestingly, no allocation, still skill point there, but now there is a solar bombardment that gets dropped onto this side, and does end up pretty much wiping out the entire escort wave that has spawned with this train. So now the train will be left off by itself. Players are going to back off a little bit to make sure they don't get burned by this scorched earth mutator and whatever's left of the rest of the escort wave. It's just going to jump in and just finish clearing up, while the rest of the army is going to start dealing damage to this train. So the train ends up respawning right now, and yeah, we have the killing shot from Artanis. So we can continue dealing some more damage to this train, wiping it out with his Reavers. The Reavers are building up these scabs because they're very good for the burst damage, and just for being able to deal with such high HP targets. But the one thing that makes Reavers not very effective on most missions is the fact that you need sustained damage. On this one, where you just need the burst damage, the Reavers are actually very effective. But you know, on a mission like Dead of Night or Minor Evacuation, if the Reavers are not able to sustain, continuous combat. So you have to take that into consideration if you choose to, use them in certain missions. We now have another attack wave that's coming up here, and Artanis' army's in position. Dehaka decides to jump in now. It is very easy. He just has to walk in, eat an infestor, and that will cause a lot of units to respawn. So very nice targeting there on the infestor. There's now one more eat over there, and again, we're clear out pretty much the whole attack wave here through these explosions. As you can see, it does make it a little bit tricky, but again, very effective. And now we basically have to deal with the next set of trains that will be spawning. We have a little bit of a Hydraless Harass on this side. And again, the escort waves with these trains are kind of big, are relatively strong, but I think Glevic will be out just in time to be able to start dealing some damage here. Dehaka's army is in position as well. Artanis' army is making its way here, is being somewhat body-blocked and by the structural layout here for Artanis, but he'll get there in time. Scorched, and again the Glevic gets dropped to deal with this escort wave. There's no the escort wave that is slowly making its way here, so Glavik will probably have to be utilized for both. Escort wave is now done on this side, and now this train is going to start getting focused right down by the commanders. See just the damage output here from both these guys, and now this train will end up getting cleaned up. I think Glavik needs to be deep tunneled across here so that he can start dealing with the next train's escort waves, because that is going to be a little bit tricky. Morvar gets dropped here in the back, and again the disabling cloud ability does make it a little bit effective. And now we have those. Yeah, very nice use of the Scorched Breath there. Ends up one-shotting the tail end of that escort wave, but he has to be careful because as soon as this train dies, the rest of these units are going to start aggroing the space and it'll start harassing. So that's something else to think about when you choose to clear out the train. So the train's gone now. The rest of these units are going to start attacking this side, but again, Dehaka is in position, and now the bonus objective is also over here. I don't know if this bonus objective will be able to be done before, yeah, never mind. The damage output from this army is just so massive. Train is going to get respawned now, and this train is going to get cleaned up. But now, we have an attack wave that's coming up towards players' expansions, and we have a very nice solar bombardment onto this side, as well as some orbital strikes and Doctrine over here. So Doctrine, see how Doctrine was pulled back? This allows the rest of the attack wave to be bathed in the solar bombardment. So always take that also whenever you're playing, take a look around and see what your ally is doing. Try and see how you can utilize your ally as effectively as possible. In this case, instead of engaging the attack wave, Doctrine actually was used to lure the attack wave into their death. So that is very, very good play on Dehaka's side. And now we have the final train that will be coming up. And for the most part, I think should be okay. I think there's unfortunately no solar bombardment here for these commanders. There's a few orbital strikes. That's not going to be enough, and Dehaka will have to go and try and see if he can actually catch out an infestor or something. But there are a ton of guardians right now, taking a lot of damage over here, and they are completely Hodoring the side. For the most part. There is a nice eat on the infestor over here. Jumps in again. Unfortunately, one of those infestors does get picked off by the Zealot Star there, which does make it a little bit more difficult for Dehaka to clear the side. But again, lots of damage output and lots of burst damage coming in from Artanis. Artanis is completely shredding these trains so quickly with the Reavers and the Immortal mix that he has over here. And now this train is gone, and that is indeed the last train of this mission. All the trains have been destroyed. All the bonus objectives are done. And that is GG.